everyone. Thanks for watching today's video. This is the Minority Stereotype Project YouTube channel where we talk about all things Asian American and academic. Today, I have the distinct privilege and pleasure to have two wise scholars on. I'll let them introduce themselves and I'll give a little context for today's video, but I'll let them introduce themselves. Dr. Freeman, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Sidney Freeman Jr., originally from Camden, New Jersey, but now I work at the University of Idaho as an associate professor. I've written close to about 100 articles, whether they are peer-reviewed or for public press, as we may call it, for magazines and newspapers. And so I've also been the founder of 2 academic journals, and I look forward to just sharing insights today regarding the publishing process.
And thank you. I'm Dr. Ramon Goings. Currently, I'm an assistant professor in the Language, Literacy, and Culture doctoral program at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I'm also founder of the Done Dissertation Coaching Program, which provides one-on-one and group coaching support services for doctoral students to get through the dissertation process. In terms of my research looks at Black male student success. And like Sydney, I also publish in academic journals, but also in magazines pretty widely. And I love this conversation just because I have a self-published book just came out this week called 14 Secrets to a Done Dissertation, a guide to navigating the dissertation process and finishing in record time. So I'd love to talk about that process and what that means for academics and how to navigate tenure and promotion and all those things.
Absolutely. Well, just to give a little context, you know, and I might be misremembering, but of course I had seen your book, the Done Dissertation, Dr. Goings, and we hadn't really, I know of your work, of course, and friends know you, or colleagues, acquaintances know you. So it's good to finally meet in the square, so to speak. But I saw that book announcement, and that's what I love about social media. You can share thoughts, and I think you had posed a question and I had responded on the thread. And so today I wanted to do a video for folks for the channel on publishing. So let's just get started. So why did you self-publish the book? What's your thoughts?
It was kind of 2 thoughts. One is that it takes so long for academic publishers to turn things around. So it's like, I wanted the book, I had great information because I had supported my own clients, but it took so long to go through an academic publisher. So I didn't want that time to wait. Like, this information needed to be out right now. And then the second part is money. To be quite frank, we give away a lot of our best intellectual property in academic spaces, and we're not the ones that receive the monetary compensation. So if you look at traditional publishing contracts, oftentimes for academic presses, you're getting about 10% royalty. And I mean, by the time you take in their marketing costs, they're not always doing a lot of marketing for you, you make no money. So it's like, we have and people buy your book and you never see anything from it. So I think those are the 2 biggest pieces that pushed me to even consider it.
So you hit on something. We can't eat prestige. So you could get in the most prestigious and one person will read it, but It doesn't pay. So can you walk through, because there's going to be viewers that are like, okay, Dr. Goings is on to something. I want to do the same thing. So can you talk a little bit about, like, how do you do that? I mean, how do you get an ISBN number, or how does that process work? And then also, if you could comment, so, this is all an educational opportunity for us all to learn. Can you talk about, I went to your website, I want to order a copy. How do you create that website that, you put in your information? How does the finances work?
Okay, so let's see where to start. So, I had always done academic presses. I had 4 books before this one. And so I didn't really know much about the self-publishing process. So I found a book coach, someone who actually specializes in self-publishing. Her name is Jasmine Womack, and she has a program called Author Made Easy Bootcamp. And literally the program takes you through the entire process from conceptualizing your idea through actually getting it out to the market. And I mean, she made the process so easy. It was like step by step. And I literally wrote the book in a weekend. Based on her process, she has you write this book in 3 days. You wouldn't imagine, but you really do. And that's what I did, this particular book. So you know, her steps, she really walks you through the process. 'Cause I feel like I'd rather invest in myself with someone who already knows the process to limit the time I need to waste to like figuring it out piece by piece. So that was the first thing. In terms of the mechanics, you know, once you have the book written, you know, the next step from there, you know, of course, is getting edited and have like multiple editors look at your work to make sure it's pretty tight. And then from there, it's like finding, you know, a lot of times you can start taking pre-orders initially once you have the title and a cover. I mean, you know, a front cover for your book. So, you know, someone going through these steps might say their next step might be to get a cover made for the book.
Mhm.
Once you do that, you can, you know, set up a Stripe account or set up a PayPal or however you want to do it, and you can start taking pre-orders. And you do the pre-order route because that helps you offset the cost of printing the books. And so a lot of times when you see folks doing the pre-orders, that's what's happening to you know, get demand and then offset the cost. Because the more you buy books in bulk, the less it is on the price, and so the better you know, ROI you have on your investment. Um, so I mean, I could go into all the steps. It's kind of small steps, but you know, the ISBN number, ISBN number. There's a website called Bowkers, and they're the one that handle all that. So you could do this through Amazon and all those other platforms, but essentially, when you use their ISBN number, they really own the book. Whereas you can just do it yourself through Bowkers, and it costs, I think, for the barcode and the number, it's maybe I can't remember $50, 75. It was a small nominal fee. So there's some upfront costs, but you can go from having no book to it being in production for less than I would say a couple $1,000s easy.
Okay.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
So you talked about the cover. Could you talk? Did you use Fiverr? Did you use what? Did you use someone that you knew? What? How did you go through that process?
Yeah, luckily, like I said, Jasmine in her program, Author Made Easy, actually had like graphic designers that she had to work with because she had a publishing company. So she's like, oh, if you want somebody and you don't have to figure it all out, go see these folks. And I went through the list and kind of found one. But I've used Fiverr for people to actually do the interior design of the book because that particular graphic designer I worked with just only did the covers. So she didn't want to do the interior design. So yeah, Fiverr was a great resource for the interior. And then also taking a PDF and transferring into a Mobi file. Mobi is like the file platform you would upload to Amazon if you want your book on Amazon.com.
So we opened by talking about, you know, what led you to do this. It sounds like it's really rapid. You'll get the revenue for the books. How do you negotiate the higher ed space? Will this book help your career in terms of tenure and promotion, or what are the politics of that?
So what I do on my CV is not listed on my peer-reviewed books. It's not that. So I have it in a non-peer-reviewed section. But how I'm kind of positioning the book for tenure and promotion, I teach doctoral students and I teach a research proposal seminar. So like this semester, I'm actually using my book in my class. So I'm actually going to talk about my book as a teaching material and talk about the impact of it. And then I can really go into the analytics. I have the data. Like I have other universities. I'm starting a university partnership program, and universities are using my book to teach their doc students. So I think that's impact in a different way, just not focusing on where was the book published, but how is the book being used by, you know, academic spaces. So that's kind of how I position it.
Do you think you'll do another self-published book?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't plan to do any more academic press books. Like once I figured it out, it's like, why? You know, I don't, you know, we do the promotion ourselves. Like you both do great promotion on your work, you know, and then all the academic publishers get the benefit of that. So I'm for at least for the books. I know journal articles we have to do. That's just the game that we're in. But the book space, yeah, I'm gonna keep doing my own books.
No, this conversation is great. Maybe we can kind of segue with this. So one thing that I'm noticing too is, and people talk about this, we know it's there's some truth to it, is just how higher ed works with the peer review, that the faculty members are reviewing these pieces, peer reviewed. It takes time, a lot of energy, and then the journals are publishing them, which the faculty, you know, we're rewarded by having peer reviewed, prestigious articles that maybe few people read. But the journals make money and we do not get compensated. So we're amateurs. We can't get paid for the reviews. They help our careers. So maybe that'd be a nice segue. Dr. Freeman, I know you edit, one journal for sure I know that's open access. Can you talk a little bit of your thoughts about the publishing practice in higher ed, and how does, what are you up to?
I think I want to just commend Dr. Goings for like figuring this stuff out early on in his career. Like it was only until I became an associate professor I figured out the game. Like, oh man, so at the early part of your career, you're asked to do all this free labor, do all this like, you know, review for journals, write these articles, and then the people who you kind of get slapped on the hand if you're publishing books pre-tenure, right? Well, even if you're just making a little bit of money, the people who are writing books are those that are full professors and stuff. So it's like those who are most who make the most money are able to get even more money because they're the ones who are encouraged to write books. So so some of the things that I am doing and still learning, I've been a part of founding and starting two independent peer-reviewed journals. One is the Journal for the Study of Post-Secondary and Tertiary Education. And so we had a unique partnership with a publishing house called Informing Sciences. And so a part of our partnership is kind of a three-way partnership: the journal itself, the my institution, and the publisher. And so really it was at a minimal cost. It only cost the university about $2,000 per year to take care of really just having a managing editor, a person who is making sure that the process of the journal was going smoothly, as far as managing the articles coming in and out, and then also doing copy editing type work. So I would say this is like my 6th year in this. And so I'm in an interesting stage where, because I founded the journal, I'm still connected to the journal, yet I have transitioned to being on the editorial board, and we have someone that is serving as the senior editor, because what you don't want to do is that it be so synonymous with you that if you try to grow in your own scholarship and things like that, and you may grow in a different direction, that that you feel like it's something that you can't transition out of. So that's kind of where I am now.
So Dr. Freeman, are you, in terms of book publishing, would you do something that Professor Goings has done? Would you self-publish a book?
So I am writing down feverishly notes based on what Dr. Goings is saying. Many people don't know this. This is just kind of been in my house so far, is that I'm doing my own self-published book right now. So what he's saying is so apropos to where I am. So he'll be hearing from me after this call.
Well, one thing too, thinking about why I wanted, and I know I think you both may have, I think you do have YouTube channels. You're on social media a lot. One thing, and I speak for myself only, I wanted to do a YouTube channel because during COVID and even before COVID, I'm noticing a trend that people are engaging with videos. It's shareable. Many times people are on their phones a lot, or iPads. And so what better platform than a free platform, in the sense that you can make videos, edit them, put them on, and to use your words, Dr. Goings, analytics, you can kind of see how many views you're getting. And it's a creative way. I think a lot of faculty, professors, we're creative people. We like to write, we like to think. And so the YouTube, for me, so if you're watching this, please subscribe to the channel and share the videos, comment. I will put links to our guests' work in the show notes, so you can check them out on social media, check out their websites. I must say too, it'll be interesting when I edit this video because I'm in my house. So I got my dog chewing I hope it's not coming through, a bone on the floor. I got kids doing schoolwork, so it's a very dynamic environment we're having here in COVID. Um, let's come back to you, Professor Goings. How are sales? I mean, are you seeing, like, can you walk us through a little bit about your consultant group, your company, as well as, the book as well? How is business? Let's put it that way.
Business is starting to ramp up. So what's happening is, so there's two ways I think as academics, you can think about selling your book. One way is like person to person. So that works. In my social media, I promote the book and people buy it. But another route, given if your book is really like not even a how-to, but really like something that's consumable, very easy for the reader. Like I'm doing books in bulk. So when I go to university, I have a whole program set up. So now they buy the book. So I'm maybe selling 60 to 100 at a time with one institution versus selling, 5 or 10 with individuals at a time. So that's my approach to selling this particular book, just because it's very practical. It's really short. It's about 87 pages, like front to back. Because I wanted the content, like folks writing dissertations don't have time to read a whole bunch of other stuff. They need to write their dissertations. So I wanted to be mindful of that. So this book is really right into the point. So yeah, I definitely wanted it to be something in terms of sales that universities just pick up and buy in bulk for their doc students. The other piece of that is like, it's a compliment. I think folks who are writing books, it's kind of like, what's the follow-up, or your book almost is what they would call like a lead magnet. So it's leading to something else. So when you have your book, like, do you have a consultant package for someone who buys your book? Or do you have a program? Do you have something lined up? Because people if they really love your book, they're gonna be like, Dr. Freeman, like, I want more, like, and then how do I get more of that? And so I think that's something that we have to think about. Yeah, academics don't teach us how to be a business. They just teach us how to be academics. And so I just think we have to start thinking a little differently.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That entrepreneurship. Um, absolutely. And one thing with this channel, if you're watching right now and you'd like to be interviewed, please just send me a email or a private message. I want to get more folks in and interviewed. And selfishly, I learn a tremendous amount from the folks that I interview. So like Dr. Freeman, I'm going to hit you up behind the video after the fact. Dr. Freeman, what are your thoughts about what has been said so far? What are you grappling with in terms of, you mentioned a little bit of like, well, as an associate, I'm starting to learn this. So can you share for viewers any lessons you've learned recently you can share?
Yeah, so I'm in an interesting position right now where I'm on the precipice of becoming a full professor. I should hear the final decision sometime in March. Right now it's the beginning of February, so it's really close. And so I've gone through my evaluation with my chair. We're having conversations regarding what my position may look like moving forward. And so I am thinking more about, let me go back a little bit. So I graduated from Auburn University at the age of 26. So I was extremely very focused, right? I've had kind of a very focused path. And so my family and others have given me space to allow me to focus primarily on my career. And so in this COVID time, it's one of these periods in life where I'm at this interesting intersection, where I'm thinking about family. What are my family needs are? How can I generate income in such a way where it allows me to spend time with my family? What are the things that I started out in studying education, in the field of education? People know me for that, but they also know me for my spiritual side. And so we have a I've been doing interviews around that, having productions around that. And so how do I shift so right now, things that I'm thinking about it are, how do I shift my research agenda and the work that I'm doing from one area, which has been primarily education, into one that is more in the space of Black religion, Black spirituality. And so it's almost, because I've done so much in education, it's almost like moving a large ship. There's so much it's taking 2 or 3 years just to kind of move that along. So those are kind of things I'm thinking about. But in relationship to what Dr. Goings was saying, I would like to hear more, if he can share, maybe about how he's created the partnerships with universities, and also the need for other support. And what I mean by that is maybe a virtual assistant or a publicist. What are some of the infrastructural things behind the scenes that help to make this successful?
So in terms of the university partnerships, I mean, some of this is built off my, being someone who's highly productive in terms of research, right? And so people know my work. And then when the book comes out, it makes sense. Like, oh, okay, he's doing this. And, I've been promoting. I think part of this is promotion. Like, people don't know what you do unless you tell them about it. And so, I've been mindful about, as I've been growing my business, to be promoting it. And then part of the thing with universities is that my clients a lot of times tell their faculty and tell folks that are able to make decisions at a larger scale at the university, like, oh, I'm working with Dr. Goins in the dissertation coaching program. This is how I'm being transformed, and then they want to work with me. And so I think as a business, we're not paid. My argument is that we're not paid for our time, we're paid for the transformation. So if you can make your idea that you can transform the organization, or in my case, transform doctoral students who are stuck in the process, like, you could write your own ticket. I think every organization operates like that, but I don't think we always think like that. So from that side. So now from like the back end of the operation. So, my coaching services, I'm actually in a space right now where I'm shifting. You talk about your research shifting. I'm shifting as a business. I've been one-to-one with my clients, but one-to-one is not scalable. And then also too, I'm spending a lot of time giving a lot of value, but the compensation structure is not set up to do that one-to-one. So I'm going to more of a group model so I can take on more students, but have the curriculum already preset and then provide value that way. So I'm trying to shift. So I know what you're talking about in terms of like making that move. And then on the back end, I have editors that work for me. So I don't do any of the dissertation edits anymore. That's how I first started, was as an editor. And then I was doing more coaching than editing. And I'm like, well, let me combine the two and create my business. But now I have folks that work for me that do editing. And then actually my wife, we work together. She actually handles the back end. She's very organized. And so she handles all the back end operations. So she's got our system all set up because that's just not my strength. So I think part of this too is like figuring out where you're not strong at and finding people to fit that space for you.
That warms my heart. You talking about your partner and your wife. When earlier when I started grad school, my wife would read my papers, and the other day I said, you don't read my stuff anymore. She's like, you're writing too much and I don't have time. And I'm like, I need a bookkeeper. So these are real. So let me ask you it might be an uncomfortable question, but it's something that I think all faculty have experienced, but especially successful faculty of color. And I would put both of you in that category, obviously, faculty of color and hyper successful. So the question is this: when you're being successful and you're grinding and you're doing this work, is there backlash? And you don't need to be direct, but what happens if folks come at you and they say, well, you're a professor first, like you're spending too much time on this other side hustle, and you need to be more focused on your teaching. Have you experienced that, or do you have any advice if there's someone that's watching and is doing what you're doing, or wants to do it, and they come up with some criticism? How would you respond to that?
Well, I would say that what I've tried to do is make the work that I'm doing highly integrated. And so there hasn't been as much of the backlash. I've taken my colleagues in my department and my students on the process with me. So I'm transparent about what I'm doing. And so I've actually, over the pandemic, I've started two businesses. So I have the for-profit, which is Dr. Freeman LLC, but then I have the not-for-profit, the Liberation Movement. And so my wife has also been my editor throughout the years, but she has an MBA and a doctorate of health science, but we've been using her MBA to help manage the business, right? And the businesses. And so I just think keeping people informed and being transparent about what you're transparent as to the extent that you can be about what you're doing and how it enhances what you do in the classroom and how it enhances what you do in your service and teaching. And I've had less questions around that because I've just listen. I'm going to speak somewhere, and it's related to this topic, and you're just upfront. So that's how I've handled that situation.
Before you respond, Dr. Goins, I just want to make a comment. So one thing that I've seen is, and it might be only for unionized colleges and departments, but I've heard stories of faculty contracts that say you can only be off campus consulting, like 2 calendar. There's always those fine rules.
Yeah.
And if a white scholar had done it for years, no one would say anything. But the moment an assistant or a highly aspiring associate does that, warning bells. Oh, you're they surveil you. You're not in your office a lot. Oh, you're traveling a lot. And so that's all I'm saying. But that's
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm talking about me now. That's true. So when I was pre-tenured, there was kind of that surveillance that you're talking about. But I just pushed forward. I didn't.
Yeah, your record speaks for itself. I mean, it's hard to tell your dean or something. It's like, well, they're knocking down my door because they want me to speak, and your work. Absolutely. I'm sorry I interrupted. Dr. Goins?
Yeah, so I had a senior scholar tell me that he's like, "Oh yeah, Ramon, you starting to publish a lot, man. It's coming." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, you're gonna start getting the hate." He said, "This is my first year as a faculty." He said, "It's coming soon." And I was like, "I don't know. We'll see. We'll have another conversation." It's my second year. It sure enough happened. And so, yeah, the surveillance, you're doing too much is what I got evaluated as. Like they were concerned I was doing too much. Like, that's just is what it is. But for me, I think I take Dr. Freeman's approach. Like I just kept pushing, like, this is my work. This is what I want to do. And then the numbers don't lie. Like, look, like, how can you say that I'm not effective? Like I have higher teaching ratings than everyone. My scholarship is more than everyone. Like, what more do you want? Like I have service out the wazoo. Like I'm hitting all those areas. At that point I say I can rest with that. If they want to do what they want to do during a tenure process or whatever that looks like, then fine. But I know I did my work, done good work. And so that's how I kind of push forward. I think, yeah, the politics is so strange because the people evaluating you half the time haven't done what you've done in their career. And so it's just always strange to me why you get evaluated in that way. And that's just being honest. And I tell folks all the time. But yeah, that's just my take on, but that hate will come.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That resonates with my heart. I think that's not being cocky. That's actually being very humble, in the sense that, like you said, you're doing the work, and why hate on you when you're doing that? I think this is great.
Could I add to that too? And what I've been doing as well is like, it's not about me. I'm like, at this point, I got the pubs, cool, but now it's like, how do I get my students on? And then so,
yes,
like I'm doing books with my students. I'm in my first year at UMBC, at University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I got students. We have one edited book with a group of students. I have one student that has a journal article got accepted for publication. I got another one working on a project. So like now I'm trying to figure out, how do I put my students on? Now what can you say? Like I'm actually integrating all of this and getting the students ready because it's helping the university. So I think if we do that in a way and then tie it to the mission of the institution, I mean, if they want to do what they want to do at that point, then you know that you've done everything you can to make an impact.
Yeah, I want to second what Dr. Going said there, because I think that's when people backed off, right? So when my students started getting dissertation of the year awards and they were getting national awards for their articles and things like that, I mean, what can you say? Like, because most of them, most of our colleagues are not doing that, and so what I do is on my CV, I even have like a asterisk on my articles that demonstrate the articles I've written with my students, and then when a third or half of your articles are written with students and you're getting them published, what can they say? So that's important.
Absolutely. I don't know of any other vocation outside of higher ed that we have to fight so hard to keep our jobs, right? Like in the sense of like even documenting our vidas, like that takes time, like and our service work and our teaching. It's not for the faint of heart. Higher ed
Well,
to do it all.
if I could jump in there, one of the things that I'm particularly challenged about is that I feel like sometimes we as academics are harder on ourselves than we need to be. So one of the things that I know my colleagues may push back on me about, but kind of irritates me, is this notion that we do work that's not necessarily applicable to our communities. And it's interesting, particularly when we talk about people of color that are, when people of color say that, or others are saying that we're not doing that, when actually, why can't we do work? Why can't we do work beyond just, why do we need to be pigeonholed? Why can't we dream and imagine and do work that may not have immediate impact, but may have impact into the future? Our white colleagues can do work that may not be applicable now, but maybe 10, 15, 20 years may come to fruition. Well, all of our work has to be like impact now or we're not relevant, right? And so I think that's kind of a challenge, that a unique challenge for faculty of color, because there's so many issues that that we have to contend with. I said recently to my chair of my evaluation, I said my dissertation had nothing to do with race, right? But because of my experiences in higher education, I had to quickly kind of pivot a little bit and address issues of race, because racism is so pervasive in our structures. And so it's interesting trying to navigate some of these challenges within the academy.
Absolutely. I was thinking about doing I want to do a children's book, because, affecting young kids, because reading with stories with my young girls, there aren't the number and the quality of books that I'd hoped to see. And Dr. Goings has made me think, well, maybe I could do my own children's book. I don't know
You should
how that
talk.
would look.
You should do it. You should talk to Dr. Sean Robinson. He has a book called Dr. Dyslexia Dude, and like he's
Okay.
doing it, and he's like he does research on Black boys with dyslexia,
Okay.
but he's written a children's book as well. And then he has all this. So he'd be somebody great to bring on and actually chat with about that process, because he's done well selling his books. Like he's all over the place with the books, and I think he's still doing publishing. He's published a lot as well, and like he's doing both. So I think it's important. Him and also Dr. Julius Davis at Bowie State University. He also writes children's books. So
Okay.
that's just some like two folks I know that do both. I think they could be real helpful.
Great. Great. Well, another thing, Dr. Freeman and I had talked um, more about this, but if you're watching this video, I'd love to collaborate with you. I think that the paradigm in higher ed is this scarcity model, is like everyone's competing against each other. That's not the track we should be taking. We're all doing wonderful work. Collaborations are great to build synergy, to uplift one another's work. So Dr. Dyslexia dude, you know, so I love these videos because we get to speak and talk informally, formally about these things, and others can learn from them. We're getting close on time. I'm going to give you both the mic to share any last minute thoughts, challenges to viewers, and then we'll close out the show.
Well, I'm just so thankful to have been invited to be on this show. I'm learning. I've learned so much just in these few moments, and I hope anything that I've shared, you know, something that I've shared has been helpful to your viewers, Dr. Hartlep. I would say I would want to encourage scholars at any level to think about publishing independently. I think this is a time where we can do that. I think we should be pushing kind of the bounds on the ways in which academia has kind of said this is the only way that you do it. I think Dr. Goings is a prime example of showing that you can do this even as a assistant professor, making that happen. And it's not one of those things where it is I'm publishing peer review articles, so therefore I cannot do well with doing some independent stuff. There are ways in which those things can be synergized and work together to complement one another. And so I look forward to picking up his book and also continue to work on my own so that I can do the same. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, I want to echo that. Thank you, for having me on. I want to leave folks with some words that intellectual property is the key to all of this, right? And so as academics, I want us to really start thinking more about how do we protect our intellectual property. Everyone's benefiting from it but us. And so I always talk about the publishing industry. I compare what we do as academics to the music industry. So my background is in music, and so the way publishing works in music is the same way it works on books. And so a lot of times we're doing all the work, we may get advances, we never recoup it. So I compare it that we're getting the new edition type of contract where you come back, you do all these sales and you come back with $2.87. And so as we're thinking about our work moving forward, I really want us to start looking at how do we protect our own work? Because think about this, and I'll leave it here, is that we're writing these journal articles, books, etc. for these publishers. They will continue to make money after we are gone from the earth. That's crazy. So when you think about that, our intellectual property moves on even when we're not here physically. So I want at least for everyone out there to benefit from their own IP and for their families to benefit from generations to come.
You know, what you just said, I was thinking the same thing. I drive, and I think a lot of times my best time is when I'm on the freeway driving. And I was thinking, also like boxing, for instance, like you get your payout, but the event promoter, or say for music. So that's really fascinating. Yeah, that's really fascinating. Thinking about, we're doing all this work, all the writing, we get pennies for our thoughts, but the publisher is making a lot of money. I mean, it's a business. They're making a lot of money and profit by publishing books. And wow, this is great. I love shows, interviews where you leave and more energized than when we started. So this is great. I will leave some contact information in the video description below, so you can follow up with these folks. I hope you get a lot of contacts after the video goes out. And I want to thank you both for your time. I hope that we can do this again, maybe on a different topic. If you're watching this video and you have ideas, please contact me, because I'd love to have you on and learn with you. So that's all I got for you. Thank you, and have a great day, you two.